Hey everybody, welcome back to Extreme Weather Zone. There's another massive multi-day severe weather outbreak about to get going over the next couple days, starting with a significant tornado outbreak that's expected in Oklahoma tomorrow, and it looks pretty bad. And so that's what we'll be looking at in this video. Right now, this is the current satellite imagery. You see here's this sort of cutoff low over the Great Basin, and there's still rain and snow. This was bringing like a late season winter storm to California yesterday. What it kind of looks like, you have rain and snow across most of the Northwest, and that kind of goes away. But you do have still some snow showers tomorrow as this colder air plunges down. The total snowfall isn't that much. Like on some of the higher mountains, you could get a couple feet of snow, of additional snow. But other than that, maybe a few inches. This winter storm is going to lead to the big severe weather outbreak. So this is just kind of the Euro model's depiction of what the jet stream looks like, and this is showing that low and the jet stream kind of coming around that. And so this is kind of what happens, is that this is what it looks like during the severe weather outbreak tomorrow in Oklahoma. This is showing that jet stream, that exit kind of part of the jet stream over this whole kind of entire area. And so this is where the severe weather is expected, especially down in this region over central Oklahoma and southern Kansas. And then what happens is that jet stream just extends out, and there's actually even more severe weather as this multi-day outbreak. More severe weather expected further eastward. This is the 500 millibar height. It shows this trough in place, and that's going to set up the big severe weather outbreak. And then what happens is that kind of just extends over, and so then you still have out in kind of in this region out ahead of it, you still have that severe weather potential there for a couple days after this, and then it kind of breaks apart over time. This is just the simulated precipitation. You see the rain and snow showers that continue tonight, and then you have tomorrow. This is where you get this big severe weather setup, but the low pressure system is actually way up here. That's pretty far north, but still you have this kind of line of severe storms that are supposed to fire up, especially in Kansas, Oklahoma, and that continues eastward into Iowa, Missouri, and then this keeps going. On Tuesday, it actually doesn't look that bad until Tuesday night. You have some storms that do fire up, but then you get this new low that kind of forms, more storms kind of in that Ohio Valley, and then southward into the Arkansas, Tennessee, that whole area. And then it's kind of just even some scattered severe weather possible in the south. But then this pretty much moves away. But this is kind of, the National Weather Service shows a bunch of wind is going to lead to very dry air with strong winds. Is critical fire weather out ahead of this. As you have all that wind, this storm bringing some of the snow, this is all kind of going to move into producing a big severe weather outbreak, big tornado outbreak in Oklahoma tomorrow. The CSU model shows a 15% chance, or actually a 19% chance of tornadoes, a 50% chance of large hail, because it's going to be the main severe weather event is going to be large hail and strong, intense tornadoes. Also some wind, but that's the main thing, is going to be significant tornadoes and very large hail. And this is a 15% chance of tornadoes. And this could get upgraded. It could still get upgraded into a high risk of tornadoes. But a 10% hatched risk of tornadoes in Kansas and Oklahoma, and then a 15% in Oklahoma and southern Kansas. And there's even a bigger 5% outside of that. And that's kind of showing that also the hail is going to be a big problem. You could have hail of 3 to 4 inches in some of these areas, especially in this includes Oklahoma City. So that's the thing. There's a lot of places like Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Stillwater, like several places that are significant in this severe weather area. And this is a 45% chance of very large hail, and that 30% chance of wind as it goes eastward overnight, and a little bit further north. And this is also showing on Tuesday a big severe weather outlook, possibly a 35% chance of severe weather in general in kind of along the Ohio River in Kentucky, southern Indiana, and Illinois. We'll see what happens with that. But a huge 15% chance of severe weather. And this is a very expansive risk, so as it gets closer, it could get even more concerning. And this is already showing, the CSU already showing a 65% chance of severe weather in the same area along that Ohio River. And this is a significant chance of severe weather, a 45% risk over from all the way from Arkansas all the way through Kentucky, Tennessee, all these areas. So this is a pretty huge risk of severe weather. And this is what the SPC did. They just made a huge 15% chance because there are some questions about, what time the thunderstorms develop and how severe they could actually be. But then this also continues into the south, a 37% chance of severe weather all the way into Thursday and Friday as this goes further southeastward. Now, the biggest risk is, of course, tomorrow, what it looks like, a very significant tornado outbreak possible. This is showing storms. Really, there's kind of a broken line of storms all the way from Nebraska all the way down into northwestern Oklahoma. And this is 4 p.m. Central Time, 5 p.m. Central Time. You have this line here, and as kind of a sounding shows that there's a marginal tornado risk with this already at this point, and then this is getting closer to 6 p.m. This is 6 p.m. Central Time. You already have a tornado probability and a 75% chance of tornadoes, and also very significant hail with this. And so then this continues, through the evening into the early nighttime, and and it gets worse. You actually have, this is, if we zoom into this, you actually have a supercell, like a classic looking supercell shape in there. Some of these soundings show a PDS tornado sounding, and the STP is off the chart. It's all the way up to an 11, but it probably goes up further than that. So this is pretty bad. This actually is the latest HRRR run, and it looks even a bit worse than the previous run. This is showing a 92% chance of significant hail and a 77% chance of tornadoes, and there's analogs that show this is going to be a significant tornado event. And it's warm. The dew points are in the 70s, too. That's very concerning. And that's going to lead to massive hail, especially with all that. There's shear, there's everything's pretty dynamic to have a massive severe weather event and with tornadoes and hail. And then this becomes a huge line of thunderstorms all the way from Iowa, even in southern Minnesota, all the way down into Oklahoma overnight. And so this is pretty wild. And then these are the dew points. The dew points are really high. You have dew points going all the way into the low to mid 70s, all the way up into Oklahoma. This is extremely humid air, and you have this kind of a dry line. You see, this is pretty tight. You have dew points of probably 2 degrees on one side. In kind of western Kansas, you have dew points in the 70s, but along that line, it goes from dew points in the 60s to dew points, below 20. So that's a huge dry line with that, and then that pushes through over time. And this is a low-level jet, and it shows that, yeah, there's not a huge low-level jet at first, but it does show this is a 35-knot low-level jet, that's enough for tornadoes, but it does intensify. Into the early nighttime, you have the jet intensifies all the way up to almost 60 knots. That's almost 70 miles an hour. So this is a very strong low-level jet in the kind of that nighttime time frame where it's about 10 p.m. You can still have some significant tornadoes at that point. And this is just the bulk shear, 0 to 6 kilometers. Yeah, there's some shear. There's enough for supercell thunderstorms. Now, this is also an interesting thing, that the cape. Here's how much cape there is. This is showing all the way up to 30, almost 4,500, almost could be in some areas close to 5,000 joules of cape. That's going to lead to massive hail and the tornadoes, but this is extreme levels of cape. Anything over like 3,500 is really high instability. This is extreme, ridiculously unstable, a ridiculous amount of cape. And then this continues, and before, the previous run did show a bit more capping coming in sooner, after pretty much after dark, but there is an area where you can still have it uncapped, and that will, if there's uncapping of this, that will lead to huge storms, just extreme hail and tornadoes. And so that's pretty wild with that. Now, the storm relative helicity is also pretty intense. You have some of this storm relative helicity is close to 400, 3 to 400 meters squared. So just showing all of this is a tornado outbreak. And this is the significant tornado parameter. This is wild. Even the SPC mentioned this in their discussion. There's STP over 10. That's off of the chart. Like this kind of ends at about 10. But there's some all the way up to an 11 possibly in southern Oklahoma. And at this time frame, this is showing tornadoes because some of the other dynamics might not be there at that exact point in time. But still, tornadoes and massive hail is likely because you have the rotating updrafts that will lead to tornadoes, and it helps the hail get very big with all that moisture. So this is the extreme levels of STP, especially in that time frame from about 8, 9, 10, 11, midnight. So by midnight, it should calm down, but this is, off the charts STP. This is extreme. And supercell composite is also very, very high, all the way up to, 25, 30. Yeah, this is not good. Here were some soundings that I pulled at first. So it starts off kind of in that western Oklahoma area. This is showing a lot of hail. So this is a severe risk, not as much of a tornado risk at all. But you have all that instability there, and this is showing 2.75 inch hail in that sounding, and then this is going from 2 to 4.5 inches there. And so this is very significant hail and tornadoes. Not necessarily strong tornadoes yet, but then it gets worse, and you have the potential for significant tornadoes, along with that massive hail risk. And this just keeps continuing for a few hours in that region before it does finally tone down a bit with the tornado risk as it goes further eastward and at night, but still, massive hail continues. This is very bad, and you even have a chance of strong tornadoes even further eastward. This is the updraft helicity showing it looks very concerning, especially in northern Oklahoma. It looks like the HRRR wants some strong updrafts going through there with massive hail and the potential for strong tornadoes. Both of those are expected. And also in Kansas, some shorter tracks, but still some strong storms. And this continues even possibly into Iowa a little bit, and also northwestern Missouri. This is a big deal in terms of that as it continues. You want to be weather aware if you're in Oklahoma or Kansas or any of these areas. Especially tomorrow looks very concerning. Monday afternoon through Monday night is very concerning, and we are at the peak of tornado season in spring. And so this is definitely a problem. This continues into Tuesday, where you have that whole line of storms. It's going to be really strong, and you have damaging winds. This is a damaging wind risk, and then it starts breaking over time as you go into the early morning. Then it kind of disappears, and so you could still have some storms in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan even. And then you do have some small storms that try to fire up in Kentucky, kind of along that Ohio River region. It doesn't look that severe or anything, but you know, there is a tornado potential with this, and hail, because that's the thing. It's probably going to be more hail. The dynamics don't even look that great for tornadoes. That you have a lot of moisture, but this does look like more of a hail event for Tuesday, and that's probably, dew points in the 70s. This is crazy. You have that's really extremely humid, and so you have these dew points in the 70s with that. And then the low level jet is not that intense for or even organized for this event, and the shearing is not as much because you have all the upper level winds kind of going this way. You have the low level winds kind of going this way. There's not as much of that turning. You don't have the low level jet coming in like this and the upper level winds coming in like that. That would be more dynamic, but yeah, and the shear is to the north in this case, but you do have a lot of instability. That cape is over 3,000 in part of that area, and it does come down, but it's still 2 to 3,000 is a really high instability. And then all this continues even on Wednesday. So the thing is, Tuesday looks like it might be the less active day, but on Wednesday it could be pretty bad. This is just the Euro. This is not even a convection model or anything. So this is further out. So as we get closer with some of the higher resolution models, it could be a lot more concerning. And it's showing a kind of a line of storms all the way from northeastern Texas all the way Arkansas, Tennessee. Yeah, this could be pretty significant. And then it kind of moves further southeast and then into Georgia on Thursday, and still those storms, still a lot of thunderstorms down there. And the dew points continue to be very high in that area, and then as it goes further south, of course you're going to have really high dew points there, but definitely a lot of moisture for these storms, so it's going to be a lot of hail. You have tornadoes, but also a lot of hail. And then the shear is decent. Shear to create the supercells and also multicellular storms. Just the cape on the Euro shows some extreme cape that does kind of go in further south, but this is further out, so this is not as good on a non-convection model. And it does show some shear, but in this area, but some of that shear is further north, but further north than where the storms are, but still there's some decent shear that does start coming in especially in the south where some of those storms would be. So there's the potential for severe weather to continue basically all week long. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday, an entire 5 days of severe weather. The low-level jet winds, not necessarily that intense, but still, other factors are somewhat concerning for severe weather. And then this is the STP showing it's pretty high in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and so, yeah, there is some severe weather potential and significant severe weather potential across these areas over the next few days, but especially in Oklahoma, as we saw towards the beginning of this video. It looks very concerning, so stay weather aware if you're in any of these areas, but especially Oklahoma tomorrow, and Kansas, but especially Oklahoma tomorrow, and some of these other places over the next few days. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more severe weather updates. Extreme Weather Zone, out.